my name is John Wilson. This is my wife Angela. We have Heirloom permaculture. What we're doing on our property here is we got about 1 acre, and we're trying to show people what you can accomplish on 1 acre to be self-sufficient, grow your own food, grow your own meat, anything you need, while not doing it in a way that's obtrusive to everybody around you. So this is what we've been working on for about 5 years here, and we just kind of like to show everybody what we're doing.
Where can they find you?
We're Heirloom Permaculture on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram.
The chat will do 2 words in 30 seconds.
That's amazing. So there's your guard dogs.
Yes, our Trigger, our Pyrenees, and our Australian Shepherd there. His name's Roy. So we have Roy and Trigger.
I love it.
In the back behind the barn here, we have a rainwater system set up for the chickens. And on days that it's working well, like we've had it off today actually because it's been frozen, but it should be warm enough now. We might be able to turn it on so we can let the chickens get water that way. Best because we don't have to haul buckets, which I like. So coming down from the gutters, we have our rain barrel. And then if I can get it turned on, I don't know if you can see over here or not. We have a hose that we can just disconnect if it's going to be cold like it has been. And it's flowing great.
And it's one of those quick snap hoses so you don't have to twist it.
Right, except it is kind of tight, I guess. There we go, so it's on. If I turn that on, this hose will take it directly inside, and we have water inside. The rain will go straight to. We have it set up where it goes to this Everflow water, and they can, I think, where they're drum waters, I don't remember what they're called.
Such happy sounds.
Yes. It just flows right there through it. We usually don't even have to worry about the water unless we have a dry spell. You know, usually the water just, rain comes off the roof and right through to the chickens. This time of year we usually disconnect it at night just because freezing temperatures, I don't want the lines to freeze or anything like that, so we'll disconnect it each night if it's going to drop below freezing. We use this for watering this little flower bed here and the herb spiral, and then for the animals.
We're taking and turning a lawn into not lawn by feeding the animals that we know exactly what they've eaten and what they haven't eaten, how they've been treated from day one, and then we feed our family with that, and then our family and friends. So the pasture, it says nothing about size. It doesn't mean you have to have 1,000 acres, 10 acres, or a half an acre. It's about how do you manage it, what is the purpose you use it for, and trying to show people that it doesn't matter if you've got a 1/4 acre, half, 1 acre, or if you've got just a little city lot. You know, we started with 6 chickens in a small city lot, and had the 6 hens, and it's turned into this. You know, now we have about 60 layers. We'll raise a couple hundred meat birds throughout the spring and summer. So we've talked about adding other animals. We try to keep everything, do each thing we do right and not get too many going at once.
Right.
So that, because all of our systems are interconnected and they've got to support each other and not any one be a detriment to another or to what we're doing or the property or anything. So we find that balance of what can we support, what can we sustain, and it always be in a positive way and not be detrimental to anything we've done or what we want the property to be.
And you guys have a video of how you made this greenhouse.
We do. We have a video of how we made it and a couple other videos just working in here. It's kind of my favorite place in the winter. It's too cold to be out there.
They are worth having, if for no other reason.
Then the fresh greens all winter. We grow just a little bit slower. We don't add any extra heat, but it keeps warm enough. I mean, it might get down to 32, 34 at night, but it keeps warm enough for your cool season crops.
And what's your planting zone here?
7B. Starting some other things that we're going to put out, like we have Swiss chard that we will eventually be putting out. We have some row cover that we'll put that out and keep it protected. But
And
some of it.
Go ahead.
There's just some of it we just keep going in here, like the salad mixes, just so we can have just constant fresh greens.
And what's your plant out? When do you plant these out? First plant out date?
Some of these we can put out now. Some of the, like the bigger Swiss chard, it can handle it now. the kale, this is actually, I don't remember which variety it is, but it's a really cold hardy kale, so it can handle, 28 degrees, but we have some row cover that we'll cover it up with just to keep it warm. So some of it can go now. A lot of the other things, you'll wait till probably mid-April.
I love it, because sometimes people assume that they can't plant until it's actually time to plant out. But if you have just this minimal amount of cover, you can get it started, and then it's ready to just pop in the ground and be harvested so much sooner.
So much sooner. And like around here, especially, we have plenty of days in the winter that are up to 60 degrees during the daytime. So you're getting nice sun, you're getting warmth, and then cover it at night when the temperatures are going to drop a little bit, and you can plant a lot earlier than the suggested dates.
How much do you think you save yourself in not having to go to the nursery by, how much is it like per tray if you go into the nursery to buy a tray of vegetable starts?
I would say a tray, you're going to spend at least $20 per tray, if not. I mean, and then a pack of seeds, like this Swiss chard tray, we barely used, I don't know, probably a tenth of the seed pack itself. A pack of seeds is $3, $2, depending on, you can get it less than that if you look at the right places. So this tray is costing us change, I don't know, minimal, where it would cost you $20+ to go buy that if you waited for the plants to be prepared.
And how many trays do you think you put through this in a season?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I mean, we can put 20 in here at a time probably, and we'll do that. We'll do that several times. I tend to overplant tomatoes because I want to make sure they take, so I'll put 2 or 3 seeds per pot, and then we'll end up separating that out, and we will end up with, this greenhouse full of tomatoes twice probably.
And then you have that much food going out into the garden. So we're not even counting grocery savings. We're just counting the savings of not having to go to a nursery
and buy the plant.
And buy plants. So that doesn't even count the grocery savings.
Oh no, right. And then a lot of times, like I said, I way overplant tomatoes. So a lot of, last year especially, but a lot of times we will end up selling some tomato plants too. So we'll have people come and actually buy the extra from us, because I try, if I can, to put each seed far enough apart that instead of snipping it, I repot all of them. So we will end up with hundreds of tomato plants each year. And then selling those on top of it, we probably make back the cost of the plant itself.
Since we moved it there,
it's good color.
I have, but I haven't used it with this here because we moved that out of the way for the Christmas tree, and then decided we liked the living room open.
Treadmill there and pulled that out of the front room.
Yes, we got rid of the treadmill. So I'm just kind of keeping a measurement so that I can make sure I get the next panel the same size.
This is beautiful.
Thank you. So I made this one on this loom. Actually, it was my first project.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
I would love to see videos about weaving if you guys ever decide to put something like that
I
on
may
your
have
channel.
to start doing that. I thought my girls have been trying to get me to do some videos with things I do. So I do this. I made my own vanilla and those kind of things that I like to do things myself.
Okay. I think homestead channels are fun when you get everybody's skills and not just the ones that everybody thinks of as homesteading skills, but like the money saving skills and the things that kind of make your heart sing skills,
Yes. Baking is I love baking bread and everything for the family, and that's why I did my own vanilla. I saw it once before and I thought I could try that and see how, and it just was better. I'm sure more economic really if you think about it, but the flavor is just, I don't know, there's something about making it yourself. Something so much more rewarding, I guess, when you do it your own.
I agree. I saw this super cute little permaculture spot that looked like it had some swales and some fun things. So what is that?
So we put in a neighborhood garden on the front of our property over to the northeast, which provided a spot for anybody in the neighborhood or whoever really to come and get food when it's ready. And they can hang out. There's a little picnic table, some community space. They can sit and visit, get what food they want. It's just something available there. It's kind of a park-like little setting. We installed it, we maintain it, we do everything, we just ask people to use it. Well, you want to go look at that thing over there?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
We'll go around.
Normally it's not so bad, but we've just been so saturated with rain lately, so it's wet in between.
Well, y'all been here, so you've seen this December and January. It's been, this is the wettest 2 months.
I can't
December,
remember.
January we've had.
This wet?
Yeah, that's what I heard. It was like almost 4 inches, and normally there's an inch.
Yeah.
So
And actually we used to have a real like water issue. But we did some work over at his parents' house because they're kind of upstream from us. And so normally, just a regular rain, we don't really have the water issue at all anymore. But it's just pretty saturated.
Well, I
so.
thought of that when I saw you guys working on your garden and putting the straw in. I've wondered if it made a difference here using the deep bed system because there's so much mud. It makes a huge difference back home, but I didn't know if it, you know.
It is a lot different because you'll see when we go back to the garden area where the ground is kind of soft from the saturation. The garden isn't at all.
So this
That
is
awesome.
this is even a little wet.
Yeah, this will be wet right here, John. Sure.
So where do you guys get your wood chips?
So all of these wood chips, we caught a tree trimming group that was in the area clearing the right-of-ways. So we caught one of the trucks and asked them to come dump, and then told them just keep coming. And it was kind of funny because we talked to the I guess he was the supervisor, and he said, well, I don't think you know what you're asking for because we can bring you a lot.
Like you have no idea.
And
we did.
we said, no, we need a lot, so just keep them coming. And I think we ended up with about 20 or 21 loads.
Wow, that's awesome.
And we used the tractor to spread it. That made a big difference because doing it by hand would have taken quite a while. But so we built up anywhere from 12 to 18 inches deep of wood chips here. And we did come in later with a little bit of composted chicken litter from our barn and stuff to just kind of inoculate it and get it going, because there wasn't a whole lot of green in the wood chips because it was November and December of last year, so this is only 1 year old. And so I knew I needed to speed it up just a little bit, so we did that, and I did a couple of pours with compost tea on it just to get the microbes in there, and it really it worked real well. It's breaking down pretty quick. We've come through and broad forked in the beds just to get some air in there, and we've got cover crop coming up on it right now.
So one of the questions I've had, especially as we've been doing these viewings of homes, is when you're putting down deep mulch in this area, especially wood bark, are you having problems with red ants? I know, at least from what I've seen, we don't have fire ants here, but we did have some small ants in our hotbed at the beginning of spring. They didn't hurt any of the vegetation, but we did have some ants as it was breaking down. And we did have ticks. From what I could tell, the ticks were in the hotbed, or on probably on the vegetation that was in the hotbed right under a tree. And so, have you had any pest problems putting in a deep mulch system?
So out here we've had no issues at all with this. We haven't ran any chickens out here or anything like that, and which is the strategy we use in the main garden where we've done deep mulch for the last several years. But we had one season where it was abnormally dry, and we had one or two little pockets of ants show up, but it wasn't fire ants, it wasn't red ants, it was just ants, and we didn't normally have them. We ran the chickens through there one time, that took care of that. We never had a problem again. But yeah, I've had people talk about, they're concerned about termites or ants or whatever, and I don't know if it's that we've been fortunate or where we're at. We haven't experienced any problems with it. We don't do anything in particular to try to prevent it, because I want life in everything here, so we don't spray anything to kill bugs of any sort. We do everything we can to inoculate to get the life growing in it. In the main garden, which we can show you in a bit, we do run the chickens through there, regularly through the seasons, and so I'm sure that has a positive effect on any pests or anything with having the wood chips there. But here we haven't done any of that, and we still didn't have any problems. So it's worked really well.
Wanted the vegetation.
Getting the vegetation. See our biggest problem because while we had planned to do this,
So on an acre and a half, we had an acre and...
It's just an acre, 1.57.
1.57.
So right at acre.
We had a really big trailer and we had a truck, and even on that small of an acreage, if you get free straw or you have free wood or you have free chips, having that trailer makes a difference. What equipment do you find on your homestead? Even though it's a little homestead, do you have some indispensable equipment that costs the money, and if you weren't homesteading, you wouldn't really need it?
So on this project, we have the tractor. You know, even though we're on 1 acre here, you know, we use it. We got as much for off-site as on-site, but having it to spread this was invaluable because you know, the previous year we got 1 or 2 loads from a chipper truck to put on the main garden, and it took us several weekends to move it with a wheelbarrow and pitchforks and get back there and get spread. Where every time they dropped one of these trucks, it took me less than 20 minutes to spread it with the tractor. So that's a big investment. There is income opportunity with it. You know, different ways to apply that, but that you could feel the value in it right away whenever you do that. Having enough of each tool so that everybody can work at the same time, having more than 1 wheelbarrow or cart, having multiple pitchforks, having rakes, having whatever, so that you don't have 3 people watch 1 person work. It's all about being efficient with that. But by far the tractor was the largest investment, and one I can't see being without. But then the specialty tools of gardening on the scale with the broad fork and things like that, it's something that you don't need it very often, but when you do, there's really no substitute to do it right.
So sweat equity.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, when we did our homestead, it took a lot of years. We made a lot of mistakes, and it was expensive in order to get the right tools to use. I mean, the right tools. You don't have to repurchase them, but to find them, to know which tool is the right tool. You buy a lot of the wrong tools first. For me, one of the reasons I'm looking so hard for something that already has fences, that already has pastures, that the home is still intact and being used as a home, and all these kind of things, is because we're about the same age. And once you get to that age, you have so many things on your plate that adding in, putting in fences, starting over, not having enough money to get things started, it feels like too much of a burden to be able to look at it and feel like it's worth it. As far as starting at our age instead of starting as a 20-year-old, do you have feelings about, thoughts on that? How to get around some of the hardest parts? I mean, do you know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm the only one feeling my age right now, but I'm feeling my age thinking about starting over on a homestead.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can definitely agree with that, and know that, you know, you've only got so many good years to do the really hard work before you've got to pay somebody else to do it. So when we first started getting set up here, you know, we didn't have the cross fencing. And what you think on an acre, why do you need cross fencing and different? Well, you need options, you know, especially when you've got livestock, you know, be it chickens or whatever, and you've got dogs. And so when I started putting in a lot of the cross fencing and gates everywhere, she was saying, how many gates do we need? You know, I was like, don't worry, I have a vision for this, and there's a reason, so that when we need to accomplish this, we can go open a gate, close another gate, and let Mother Nature, the animals, go where they need to go, and we can cordon off where we want them, we can contain them, and we can accomplish a very specific task with ease. You know, make it easy now, do the work now to make it easy later, as long as you have a plan and you're just not going about it, you know, randomly.
And a lot of people think coming into homesteading that it's going to save them money because they're going to be growing their own food. And my experience has been it's your quality of life that you're paying for. You do get food in, and you have higher quality food. But to me, it's more about how am I raising my kids? What am I handing on to future generations? Even if it's not to my kids, hopefully I'm handing on these fruit trees to someone else. It's about how I feel I treated my earth that I was a steward over. And I could have spent that money on something else and that would be also have been a good choice, but I chose to spend it on homesteading. So a lot of people are looking at it as like, I'm going to save money on food, but you're probably going to come out to zero. That's kind of my take on it, is I felt like I had to bring money in and force the homestead to pay for itself, because otherwise it was a selfish thing. Why did you, I would assume it was the same for you guys, but why did you come at it from like I'm going to educate people about it now, I'm on YouTube now, I'm not just going to be a homesteader?
So we've been married for 23 years, and we've always had a garden wherever we're, you know, the old house or here. So growing our own food, it was never 100%, you know, everything we eat. It was, you know, we enjoyed gardening. We've gone through several different variations of ways to garden, from there better not be a weed in your garden. It should be all exposed dirt, to square foot gardening, to back to Eden gardening, to trying to find what works best for us and for where we're at. So the gardening part of it and the growing food, well before we had kids, we just enjoyed doing it and felt like it was something that I've always enjoyed, you know, and there's times where you don't want to go out there in the middle of summer and you know, but you can still look at your garden and say, well, I get joy from that, I get value from that, so I'm gonna do it. After we got out here and the size of when we first got here, there was nothing to garden. There was no garden spots where the previous owner had his tomato plants. He had somebody come in and cut a spot on the slope to level it out, and he basically created a pond. And he never could get tomatoes to grow because they'd flood out and it'd be in standing water. And so when I saw that area, I thought that's not where the garden should be for a lot of reasons. So we need to figure out where we're going to do this. We came in the fall, and for the first garden the next spring, we knew we didn't have a lot of time to get anything developed. So we put in 4 4-foot by 4-foot square beds and decided we'll do square foot gardening because it's intensive, and we're going to fill it with the good soil. You know, it'll be ready to go in the spring. So we set those up, started planting in the spring, and realized really quickly that wasn't near enough to satisfy our gardening desires or what we want out of it. We always researching, always learning about different ways to do things, and we come across Paul Gauchi and Back to Eden Gardening, and thought this is something we can do. It's fairly quick. It's not going to be an immediate fix, but it's not bringing in loads and loads of dirt that we've got to pay for and trying to get clay out here. We'll just let Mother Nature do what she does best. We'll provide all the necessary components, and we'll let it improve, and we'll have a good garden. As we became familiar with permaculture and we started applying some of the principles, we saw the opportunity for us to learn more, and the more we got, more knowledge we got from it, the more we shared, just because something we were excited about, we shared with people we know, and found out that we enjoyed kind of sharing that knowledge, just innocently as a conversation. So the long-term plan or goal would be that I come home from a day job where we support ourselves purely off the property that we're on. We do currently grow meat birds for ourselves, and we've sold some to friends and family that have asked for them. We grow plants in the greenhouse.
Well, and that's what we found back in the beginning when we first started. Before we did the online stuff, I was trying to find a way to make money on the homestead just so I could pay my feed bill. And what I found, and I had friends that I was watching do it before me, is that they would get into livestock, and then they would end up putting so much into the cost of feeding these animals that they could only sell them. They couldn't afford to eat them themselves, and so they would go to the grocery store and buy their milk, and then they would sell their goat's milk at like $10 a gallon because they didn't feel like they could afford to eat it or drink it themselves. Just financially, that's how it worked for them. And that was why in the beginning I decided not to sell anything. I wasn't going to sell anything. I was only going to keep as many animals as I needed to for our own specific use because of the cost of giving good feed. And so I think what it comes down to, because of your channel and what I've seen on other channels on YouTube, is that it depends on what your resources are. It depends on how fast your grass grows back. It really depends on what you have that can be free or that can be inexpensive, what you can raise and what you can sell. And for instance, there's some people that have these mountains of compost and food scraps that are brought in, and then they put a couple hundred chickens on it, and the chickens just eat it, they eat the bugs that are in it, and then they turn it into compost because that's their local resource. So they can sell eggs inexpensively and still have it be organic and heirloom. And so what you're doing with chickens, we have a very varied homestead with most of our property in pasture for the milk goats. And then we only keep 12 chickens. And well, actually we stopped keeping chickens because we had the deep mulch. We keep 8 ducks and 3 chickens because we wanted to keep the slime from the ducks. And so for us, that's why we did it, because we live in a desert. We can't afford to have chickens scratching because our grass does not turn over that fast. We don't get enough rain. And so for you guys to be able to raise those kind of numbers in your backyard, it shows that you have the experience and the know-how of your own property And that's why every homestead is different, and what you can make money on in every homestead is so completely different. And your neighbor could try and homestead, and it would be a completely different experience, even though you're right next door to each other. And I think that's amazing that you can raise that many chickens because you still have lawn. If I did that on my property, there would be no grass anywhere if I had that many chickens. And yet your front yard is well maintained. You have enough room to have this lovely little permaculture spot. I can still see a pasture back there, and I can still see over there that you still have grass. And so to me, it's brilliant to be able to do that on this small space and to actually still be able to feed your family and have a few left over to sell to people. That just blows my mind.